right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that last session, and we're going to jump right into the next one. We're going to introduce Mr. Jason Davis to the stage to join Dr. Luttrell.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been an exciting morning so far already, so I'm hoping I can add a little more spice to the discussion that will follow in the next day and a half. My name is Jason Davis. Next slide, if we want to, my little who I am and sort of what I believe. I'm a PhD chemist by training. I spent about 10 years in pharma doing drug discovery and oncology, Alzheimer's, diabetes space. You're all thinking like, are you in the right seminar right now? Yeah, no, trust me, the story gets there, right? So I spent, after that, I actually moved to General Electric Company at their Global Research Center, where I was a principal scientist for about 8 years there, leading a team, half in Shanghai, half in the US, doing all kinds of different technology development, carbon capture, frac water purification, point-of-care diagnostics for forward operating bases, worked with a lot of DARPA research programs in that capacity. And about halfway through my time there, I was asked to sort of take the role of global leadership and development trainer for our technical folks. So I got to spend about 5 years flying around the world, spending a week or 2 weeks at a time with our scientists and engineers within the company, and really focusing on soft skills, on communication skills, the ability to communicate technically complex things in a way that allows you to share your vision, to sort of explain the impact, why it matters now, why we should do this. Because what we found was that with those really complex concepts, they weren't communicated effectively and they didn't rise to the top, even though they were the best idea by far, right? And so I became very passionate about the idea of getting scientists and engineers to be able to explain their idea more effectively, make it approachable. Because really at the heart of it, when you have a complex story, that in fact is what we're seeing as one of the most vulnerable targets for mis and disinformation, right? So I spent about 5 years sort of trying to create that capability within that company at GE, and then I moved over to academia, where I actually spent some time trying to do workforce development in the private sector, again, trying to work on soft skills for scientists and engineers. About a year and a half ago, I actually had the opportunity to move over to Syracuse University, where I've been working with Dr. Luttrell for some time. And in fact, the majority of my research right now is focused on developing AI and machine learning driven detection strategies for misinformation and disinformation to try and combat that incredibly fast moving challenge that is a global challenge. It's not country specific. I mean, this is something everybody is wrestling with. And so what I wanted to spend a little time today talking about is some of the technology that underlies that explosion of social media is being driven by it. Really the concept of AI. AI and machine learning is become buzzwords almost. They mean everything and nothing at the same time. So I want to try and unpack that, how that plays into the concept of synthetic media. So that is, again, computer-generated content. Many of you are probably aware of it. Some of you may be even using it. Some of you may be afraid of it. I want to try and unpack that a little bit for you to help you understand how it works, why it works, and maybe give you some tools to better assess if it's the right fit for you and your organization. Okay? So we're going to walk through again, what is AI? What is machine learning? Let's just kind of all get grounded in the same definition. What are GAN-based generators? We'll talk about this. Again, unpack some of that language that is often confusing and makes things unapproachable. How does it work? And then we can start to talk about what are the applications that are happening. And then we'll finish with a little touch on the dark hat. Here's what it was designed for. Here's what people are using it for, right? And you need to be aware of both ends of the spectrum. Next slide, please. All right, so what is AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Again, in my mind now that means everything and nothing, right? So it's become such a buzzword. Oh, it's AI, right? It just explains away things that people don't understand. It's like magic. So what is AI? AI at its heart is actually an automated or sort of computer-driven system that is able to ingest information or data, and that could be through visual sensors, it could be through optics, or it could be through sort of bits and bytes that we feed it. It is able to then process and organize that information pool and turn it into knowledge. It can then use that knowledge to solve problems, right? That is exactly how humans do it, right? We are given knowledge as we learn over time. We use that knowledge to solve problems. So that's kind of how it is artificial intelligence. It sort of tries to solve problems like humans do. Now, machine learning is a subset of AI. So what is machine learning? Well, machine learning is actually not just that simple ingestion of information, sort of organizing it and then using it to solve the problem. It goes the next step, and then it says, well, how did I do on that problem-solving opportunity? And it uses that feedback loop either on itself or from another machine learning system it's connected to. And it learns from its mistakes, and it learns from its successes, and it gets better. So it's got an optimization process built into it. And that is sort of a much more living system. We start to get into things that feel a little creepy, and that's okay. Get comfortable with that. It's going to be sort of everywhere if it's not already. So if we think about examples of this, I like the one of your Google directions, right? So you put in your location, you put in where you want to go. Google Maps has already given it all the roads and streets between where you are and where it's going, and now it's solving the problem of get me from here to there, and you put some constraints on it. Get me from here to there in the shortest distance. So it will find the route, right? Now that's not always what you want, right? So you might be like, I didn't want to get there in the shortest way and it takes me 10 times as long, or I pay $50 in tolls to get there. I wanted to get there with these conditions. I want to get there the fastest. Oh, okay, now I need traffic patterns. I need congestion. I need to understand when the throughway is going to be backed up, right? Now I make a different set of decisions because you've given me new constraints. And that's the concept of that real-time learning and adaptability that machine learning brings to the AI equation. All right, so any questions on those two concepts? Again, they're at a high level. I think it's important we all decode some of these words that everyone uses, and many people don't use them without really understanding what's at their heart. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so one of the applications I think is most relevant to sort of the communications and social media space is the concept of synthetic media. So what is synthetic media? Again, let's define and unpack that term, right? So it really can exist in all of the modalities, right? So images, text, audio, and video. All of these can be generated by machine learning driven AI systems, right? So they make these things from scratch. Brand new, authentic, original content. Those words also will start to feel disturbing at some stage, but technically, right, they're not copied from anything, they're not plagiarized, they're not any of those things. They are their own unique new creation. The idea of an NFT, right? That's where that all kind of came out of. So what is it? So it's, again, content that is generated using computational methods, right, from scratch. It is not manipulation of real-world images, content, text. That is actually different, right? So if I go in and I Photoshop an image, that's not synthetic media, right? That's me manipulating real-world content. So those are two different things. And what they do, again, is kind of create this like original content moment versus modified existing content moment. So we want to play on the original, completely new to the world content. All right, next slide, please. All right, so let's do a little group evaluation on where we are as human beings when it comes to being able to sort of distinguish between synthetic media and original or real media. So I want you all to keep score. Let's run through a couple of examples of these are GAN-generated images and real images. And I'd like you to sort of just keep score for yourself on how you do as we walk through this process. So real or fake? Keep your own score, and at the end we'll unpack that as a group, right? I'll go around and ask it. But that's, all right, so your own personal decision. We'll give you a few more minutes now that you know the challenge, like you can start to pick apart things and then second guess yourself, and then you become sort of have a neurotic moment as you move through these challenges.
I was going to say, these are images. Our team at Syracuse, the grant that we work on, we're called media manipulators. So we take, it's exactly what it is. Every time I say that, my dean cringes a little bit because we are supposed to preserve the First Amendment, right? But this is part of the research that we do. So kind of fun stuff.
So real or fake? Okay, next slide, please. Real or fake? Now I'm looking at you all looking at, what are you looking at? What do you think pattern do you think you're seeing, right? Okay. Everyone got their suspicions, let's say? One more second of scrutiny. All right, next slide, please. Real or fake? Next slide. Real or fake? Next slide, please. Real or fake?
But does Photoshop make it fake? I guess depends how,
Right. See,
right?
good thing I defined that just before this exercise. That's right. Next slide, please. Real or fake? Next slide.
How many people think this is getting tougher and tougher? Just show of hands.
Right, you start to get dizzyingly confused. I'm like, I have no idea what criteria I'm using anymore to judge this.
So
That's natural.
they're all fake, right?
They might be. We don't know yet, but I will share the answer key in a moment.
For our online attendees, almost the whole audience raised their hand that this was getting more difficult. We should have done a poll online, Kwande, right?
Next slide, please. Real or fake? I call this one blue steel. All right, next slide. Diplomat.
You should have put names under
I
them,
should
right?
start
Like
to
art.
Yeah, that's right. You are right, Gina. All right, when we get back, students,
Perfect.
next assignment. All right, last slide. Real or fake? Definitely cool.
For sure.
All right. Everyone got their suspicions? All right, let's back up to the first one, and I'll give you the answer key, and let's see what your score is out of 10. All right, first one, real or fake? Hands up, real. Fake? Okay, 50-50, good. Yeah. This one, fake.
Majority of the audience thought that this one was fake.
Real or fake?
Oh, the audience doesn't know really in person.
Fake. All right, now people are starting to become experts. See, I scrutinize this. I love it. That's what we start to get confidence until we get shattered, right? Next one, real or fake? This one is real. We get this one a lot. Oh, but it's almost too perfect. Yes, that's correct. Sometimes that's true. Next one. Real or fake? This one is real. Next one. Real or fake? It is real. Next one. Real or fake? Oh, totally fake. No, it's real. Next one, real or fake? Fake. Real or fake? This one is real. Next one, real or fake? This one is fake. And the last one, real or fake? I want it to be real.
I love it.
It is fake. All right. So everyone's got their score out of 10. How many of you got 10 out of 10 correct? Who's perfect in here?
Oh, I got so excited. Nobody's ever gotten 10. I was so thrilled.
No. So for the online audience, there are no perfect scrutinizers in this audience. 9 out of 10. Nope. No 9 out of 10s. 8 out of 10. There we go.
Oh, we got a couple 8s.
Yeah,
Good.
we got
Nice.
5 8s. Very nice. Well done. You're above the curve.
You are.
7 out of 10.
Oh, more.
Okay. How about 7 more? 6 out of 10. Okay. And let's just be civil. 5 or less out of 10. All right.
3. Be proud of the 3.
So yeah, you are what we call an anti-discriminator. So like whatever you think, we just do the opposite, and it's probably correct, right? So right. So in that, we actually ran these 10 figures with a much sort of larger group of individuals, and what we found is the average correct rate was 5.3 out of 10, right? That's a coin flip because it's 50-50. So 50-50 means you're a random guess. So what that tells us is that we already are at the edge of human capacity to be able to detect the difference between synthetic generated media and real, authentic, original media, right? So what does that say? It says that, one, you can no longer trust an image as proof of something being real or correct or accurate. And it really is kind of a sign that, and this is actually the last generation image generator technology that was used. They're way better than this now.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So you got the easy test, and again, so it really tells us, right, we now are in a position where we actually need digital detection tools to help us with some of these tasks, right? And so AI and machine learning systems have created something of a monster, although, again, designed for legitimate and high-value opportunities in the real world. Misappropriated can be used for just as impactful malicious opportunities, right? So don't think that you have the capability to do that determination or discrimination yourself anymore. That ship has sailed for us. So we do need some digital tools to try and help us with this, but they're not in real-world applicability or availability right now. We are playing catch-up in a big way on that front. And so what I would say is use suspicion with a healthy dose right now, but the tools are coming. So please hold. All right, next slide, please. All right, so what is the underlying AI machine learning technology that is allowing this kind of synthetic media to be generated? So this, again, can seem creepy, it can seem a little scary, and even the concepts, some of you may be comfortable with sort of engaging with AI systems, chatbots, that kind of sort of, again, AI-driven system. Some of you may be like, I'm not a coder, that's not for me, I'm not a software person, right? I'd like to defang that a little bit because I think it's really important if you understand how it works at a simple level, you can start to evaluate those technologies with sort of more of a critical eye and understanding what you're asking for, what you need, and whether an application makes sense or not, right? So the first thing is that you don't need to be a deep coder to be able to use these AI systems. That has already been done for you, and now you are starting to see things on apps that are just download and use, right? The user interface is so applicable, they have hidden all this in a black box. So access, I think you have it. Understanding what you're getting into, I think we want to unpack the technology a little further to do that. So again, when you understand how it works, you can start to evaluate what's possible, what's not possible, and even more importantly, you can start to ask the right questions when you see an opportunity to use this technology for the deep technical experts that have those answers, right? So you can have the conversation at least. You're not on the outside waiting to hear what they've decided amongst themselves, right? That's an important empowerment tool that I hope we can give you today. All right, so let's unpack what a GAN is. Next slide, please. All right, so these are, again, will be called GAN-generated synthetic media. GAN-generated anything all has the same underlying process of development. So it stands for generative, so we're making something, we're generating something. In this case, it would be a fake image, it would be a text story, it would be an audio clip, right? We're generating synthetic media. It's a network, so all the information and the algorithms that are in that sort of code are networked together and their nodes are connected. That's a normal network is what you think it is. And the keyword is adversarial in the middle. So this is where there was a step change in technology that really has created this explosion of capability in the space. And adversarial is, I love this penguin picture, right? What it is actually pitting two machine learning systems against each other in a competitive way. So there's an adversary. You are creating a sort of algorithm that is going to generate the content that you are interested in, and we are going to pit it against a detector that's going to say, that's fake, I caught you. Oh, that's fake too, I caught you, right? So now the generator is going to take that information from the discriminator, we call it, and say, oh, you caught me on that? I won't do that again. And then they make another round of generative outputs, and then that discriminator tries to catch them again. The discriminator says, oh, I only caught you like 20% of the time. You're getting better. Then that understanding feeds the discriminator, and it says, oh, I need to start looking for this and this and this and this, right? So we give them the answer key afterwards, and we train them up. So they get better at detecting, and then you get better at generating, and they get better at detecting until you get a system that, depending on how much computational power you have available to you, is as close to perfect as you want to make it, right? And that's an unsupervised example of machine learning, right? That machine is teaching this machine how to get better at generating things, and this machine is teaching this machine how to get better at detecting its fake content, right? So the speed at which that can happen means that they can train on whatever. You're only limited by the imagination and availability of your data set to train on, and the amount of computing power you have to sort of plug into it. So again, this is kind of what is underpinning that concept of how you get to a system that's that good, is designed with this GAN concept underlying it. Next slide, please. So how does this work? All right, so again, in a little bit more of a, for those visual learners out there, this is kind of how it works, right? So you have a training data set that you're going to feed into both of those things. The generator that's going to make that new synthetic media, text, image, audio, video, whatever it is. And then you've got a discriminator that's going to be trying to catch it. That all goes into a black box. They fight it out, and then they learn from each other and get better. That cycle loop repeats. Feedback, output, discrimination, detection, feedback, discrimination, detection, feedback, and they both continue to get better until whatever you set that limit as towards unity, perfection, whatever you want to call it, right? So again, this is an example of that unsupervised machine learning. There's no human involved or required to make that happen. It just spends time and computational cycles sort of learning from itself. All right, next slide, please. All right, so then let's talk a little bit about, actually, maybe I'll stop right there for, is there any questions on sort of that technical concept? I just want to make sure that you feel like you have an understanding of kind of how this works and why it's different, and again, hopefully you got a sense of like the kind of quality of output that it can create at this stage and beyond. Okay, we'll forge ahead. All right, so kinds of applications. So let's think about the different modalities, right? So images. Okay, you got a good sampling of exactly what that is like and capabilities where they are right now. Right, so human faces. StyleGAN 3 is being developed and launched right now by NVIDIA. So again, the stuff you saw with StyleGAN 2 is better. It's better than what you saw. Human faces, they can do it really well, to the point where detection, you're just guessing as a human, even if you were a trained expert. So some of the detection strategies on the digital side that now are being forced to occur is like, what's the symmetry of the pupils? Right? You have no chance at that, right? What are the pixels, symmetry around sort of different features? It's at that level of digital metadata detection. It's not an optic challenge anymore. We're too far past the capability there. Objects, clothing, so the same. They started with human faces because it was an interesting and powerful application. Now they can do exactly the same thing with a coffee cup, a car, animals, cats, dogs. I guarantee you there are plenty of fake cats out there just walking around doing whatever they do. Landscapes, right? So now we're getting into more complexity and different landscapes. I can make a landscape that is a picture or a GAN that was generated in the summer and then make the exact same one in the other 4 seasons. Well, the other 3 seasons, right? I can do all kinds of transformations. Once I even generate my first original GAN image, I can then transpose it in lots of different ways. Converting real images to cartoons, this is becoming very popular, and vice versa, right? So in the meme world, this is becoming a very significant tool, and there are lots of apps now that you can go in and will basically create a meme for you. It'll generate a completely non-owned image that, you can even put, I want a meme about like how much my work sucks. Okay, right? It'll come in, it'll spit it out, and you'll have like 50 memes if you want. And again, you can put the target audience, you can put you can say, for millennials, or you can say things like, I want it to be about, my dad or my mom. And it will take those constraints and it will generate something along the lines of what you're looking for. And again, the cost is almost zero, right? So it's like digital photos, right? Remember when you used to have, so those of you who remember this, right? You had film and you had to be careful with how many pictures you had to take. Right now we have digital cameras. It cost me a couple electrons. Click, 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 click. I'll just throw it out if it's no good, right? So the barrier to trying things becomes very low. And the cost to generate something new comes very low. We'll talk about that in a little bit as exponential technology. So another thing that is coming or is here is the ability to reposition human poses. So if I have a picture of a human in a pose that I can have, I want them actually standing, facing left, not right. And that picture can be, through the same GAN technology, be repositioned so it looks like that person was actually facing that way in their picture. And you can connect those dots, as we'll show later on. That's how you start to think about GAN-generated video, right? So I can take a person who was facing this way, and I can take a person who was facing that way, and then I can model all the frames in between here and there and produce completely synthetic video of that person walking from here to there, right? So it's powerful. Like there's a lot that can happen there. And then now, again, advantage, right? I don't have to worry about stock photos. I don't have to worry about licensing. I don't have to worry about buying photos to use. I can have a photo of almost anything. I can have 50 photos of almost anything I want, whenever I want. And I don't have to worry about sourcing it. I don't have to worry about whether it was real or not, because it's not, right? So that's a pretty powerful tool. And then one of the last ones I think is we maybe already are seeing, right? So in PowerPoint and other places, the concept of text-to-image translation. So here's an image, write in text what's in the image, right? And that's for the ability to provide that for disabled audiences, right? So that accessibility piece is really been used in this way. Same thing now, you can write text and it will make a picture of whatever you want.
Has anybody used DALL-E? Yeah, pretty cool, right? Okay.
So, yeah. We're talking about DALL-E 2 briefly, right? I'll show you an example, right? So they now have, kind of continued to pioneer in this space, OpenAI, who is the creator of DALL-E, which is, again, a software. There's an app, I believe, for DALL-E 1 that you can just go and download and start using right now. So lots of different applications, and this is just synthetic image. Next slide. All right, so again, human faces, and I want to point out a few things here, right? So they have tackled the concept of diversity, right? So they can make fake people in all sort of shades, cultural demographics, age groups, no problem, right? They planned for that. They've got it on lock. You can actually take images of a single person. So let's say I create an image of a person, and now I just take that image and I say, okay, now make that person do a bunch of different stuff. So now it's like I've got photos of them living their life. So if I want content of them at an appearance at a show, I just tell the GAN that's what I want. Spit that out using this person that you created in the first place, right? All capable, all possible. So again, human, all things human, these systems are pretty good at recreating.
So none of those people are real.
Yes. So again, this is an example of like more current technology levels.
Yes.
They're all perfect in their own way.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, you feel like you know these people, or they could be related to you, or, I mean, it's kind of crazy, the level where we are.
And that's not by chance. So
Right.
a lot of the images that are used at the original training data set are faces of celebrities. Why? Because they were readily available. They have lots of pictures of themselves out on the internet. 2, they look familiar to us. So a lot of these faces look slightly familiar. You don't know why, but maybe I've met that person, right? Because they've got features of celebrities that you probably have seen many times. And 2, they're attractive. That's why they're celebrities. That's why the images are naturally attractive to a lot of people, right? So there's not by design that they feel familiar or they feel comfortable to look at. They don't feel weird, right? That kind of uncanny valley between like things that are definitely obviously not real and things that are really real, you can't tell, and then there's that valley of like, oh, that's kind of real and it's creeping me out. They're on the other side of that by intent. Next slide, please. So military vehicles. These are not real images of not real vehicles. Again, whatever you feed into the training system, whatever that training data set is an opportunity to allow them to create visually undetectable. Now here, maybe a deep expert in some of the specific, sort of equipment may be able to see things that aren't real, but we've seen these used regularly as like, oh, China's new military vehicle rolled out. Amazing capabilities, blah, blah, blah. All fake, all sort of malicious with intent, right? So next slide, please. Complexity of a whole room, like concept of landscapes, right? This apartment does not exist on Airbnb, but here's a picture of it, right? Send me your money, trust me, I'll send you the keys, right? Very common. one of the first financial kind of malicious applications that was used is the creation of fake Airbnb type advertisements. So next slide. And again, complexity, right? So they're not just making a bed. They're not just making a car. They're making a room with a shelf with knickknacks on it, with a window with drapes. I mean, again, the ability to sort of cover a huge amount of complexity in the images is continuing to progress without limit, except computational power.
You experience that. I mean, I'm sure you've used Zoom, right? I mean, the backgrounds for Zoom are getting better and better and better. I was with a colleague and I'm like, I love your library. He's like, that's not real. And then he disappeared. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that.
That's right. Right? You really might be on the top of Mount Everest doing a Zoom call.
Exactly, right?
But maybe not.
Yeah.
And then this is an example of DALL-E 2. So this is like the cutting edge generation of this image generation. And this is a text to image application, right? So you type in, I want an astronaut riding a horse in the photorealistic style. And then this is what you get. Again, I'm back almost to the edge of disturbing here, right? So, and again, this is a bit of a kind of non-believable scenario, but I guarantee you type in something like sort of a 40-year-old cutting their lawn with a red lawnmower, you'll get something that looks like a picture off the street, right? So really powerful, and the technology, again, is just accelerating at an exponential rate. And so this is a moment when I like to say lead, follow, or get out of the way, because it's here. It's not coming, it's here. And either embrace it or understand it and defend against it, but ignore it at your own peril. So next slide, please. All right, so this is an example of that repositioning concept I mentioned, right? So there's that first image, which is the original image, and then I say, I want this model in a different pose. And so you give it a few cues of what kind of pose you want it to transform into. The GAN creates that new image. And now what I can say is, now go frame by frame back to how you would model from being that first position to the new pose, and just make it look like a video, frame by frame. Can be done, is being done, right? So again, lots of power behind it, right? And this is sort of the idea being eventually, right, in a the monetary driver for this is, as Dr. Luttrell said, that the audience is starving for content, right? Netflix, Amazon Prime, the biggest struggle they have right now is creating enough content for me to be able to binge as much as I want. How many of you have been on Netflix recently and be like, it's nothing new, I've seen everything. God, I finished the internet, right? That's a real threat for them, right? And in fact, they've started to move back to the original premise, which they disrupted, the idea of, we'll give you one show a week, you gotta wait a whole week, you can't binge the whole new Lord of the Rings series in one night, no matter how much you might want to. And we're gonna start throwing ads in there, right? That's exactly the model they disrupted, but they're being forced back into it. Okay, I see your warning fingers. Yeah, so this is really an important sort of ability to say, hey, at some stage, I'm going to be able to write into my Netflix account, I want to watch a movie, it'll be an action movie, it'll be set in sort of Africa, and it's going to have an actor that looks like me. Here's my picture. 30 seconds later, I get to binge a movie that I decided what was going to be, how it was going to be, and they just sort of create it, right? Continual content creation, all of it fully fabricated. You don't have to pay any actors, you don't have any set fees, you don't have any location challenges, but I get exactly what I want because I'm a customer of one, and you better know what I like, not what Dr. Luttrell likes, right?
Right, it's that conversation.
I don't want to watch the same movie as her. You might be surprised. Right? Right? So, all right, next slide, please. All right, so now that's the image side of it, right? Again, I won't get into the audio side of it, but that also is in the same sort of space. The text side of it, right? So this might also, resonate a lot more with many of you, is that ability to create content, written content, autonomously, right? Just the AI writes it for you. Mm-hmm. So this is, again, original content, right? You're not plagiarizing. It's not stealing it from somewhere else on the internet. It's not stitching pieces together from different authors and making a new piece. You're giving it some instructions, some guidance, and it goes in and writes an article based on its knowledge that it has been fed, and at 175 billion parameters in the most recent models is a lot. Right? It's got a lot of ideas that it can leverage. And so you give it a couple of content directions, and it can spit out a blog level post, it can spit out a tweet, it can spit out a full-length scientific journal article on a topic where no experiments were ever done.
Yes.
Right? Concerning for people like me.
There's, how many people have used something like that? Copymatic, heard of that?
Copysmith, one of those.
Copysmith, AI, Copymatic. If you can get a 2-week trial or a week trial, it'll blow your mind away. As an educator, I am like, oh my gosh, my students could write their entire paper and I would never know, because now they also have plagiarism checkers built in. Right? This is my first thing I do, is send something through a plagiarism checker. It's original. So then we get into the ethical line right there, right? But as Jason was saying, for I remember when I was one of the very first, like they sent it to me and they're like, here, try this. You teach this, try this. This is great. And I could write an entire blog post in 30 seconds or less. It is insane. I could then, and when it's even getting better, so it will give me images that are Creative Commons. So I'm not going to get dinged for having somebody else's image. Now I have my post, I have my image. And I want to tweet this out. And I also want to share it on Instagram. So now it's going to create, all based on this blog post, my social elements that I just push out. And it's all mine. And I pay a small fee. It's one of the free links at the end. Well, that one's a low cost link. Relatively low cost for what they're doing.
Yep. And so, yeah, so, I mean, again, the power of scalability, gives you more time to spend, like, let this be your jab, 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 and you spend more time on your right hook.
Right.
Right? That's what the opportunity is to sort of give you power of scale. And I'll give you one quick real-world example. So around 2015, the AP started using this kind of text-generated content for their company analysis, right? So originally they were covering about 400 companies. The year that, within I think 3 months, they were able to cover 4,000 different companies. And of course the proof is in, does that really do anything for anybody? So they, you know, the nice thing is for in finance world, right, everything is kind of, the financial filings are very well defined. They're all in the same format. They have to be for compliance reasons. So it's easy to scrape. Right? So they could scrape that content, they could write an interesting article about that company, again, completely synthetic, but they were able to create and cover 4,000 companies instead of 400 companies. And those 4,000 companies that had not been covered before saw an increase in stock activity of about 11% in like 6 months, right? So that was actually content that was being pushed to users who were reading it and making actionable decisions based on that content, right? So again, it doesn't have to be fake, it doesn't have to be malicious, it can be real content, and again, it can give you the power of scale where you are overwhelmed sometimes by the sheer numbers of what you would like to do, and you're forced to choose like, let's target like our most valuable, you know, sort of audience instead of the whole audience we'd like to cover. So next slide, please. I'll try and move quickly here. All right, so this is the concept of exponential technologies, and this is you know, just the way that rapidly evolving technology works. So I like to use drones as an example, right? Remember when drones were like a high-techy thing, that man, and then now, you know, anybody's kid gets one for Christmas for 25 bucks, right? They can go and shoot footage of their street, you know, flying around wherever they want, right? That's an example where the technology became lower cost and more accessible, and the usage went up exponentially, right? So that's kind of what I'm showing with this curve. So if you look at the bottom here, the timeline, right? This is GAN image generation technology from 2014 to 2017. That's how fast this technology is moving, and it's accelerating, not sort of plateauing by any stretch yet, right? So what does this mean? Well, what's the output of an exponential technology? That is usually the thing that's being commoditized, right? The cost and value of that is coming down as a thing. Right? So in drones case, right, the cost of drones went from millions to dollars. In this case, what are we making? Original content. So the value of original content is coming down to commodity level. Low barrier to usage, low barrier to creation, low cost to creation, low time and effort and energy, right? That means it's commoditized, right? So what does that mean? Well, the other things that are going to become more valuable are information about your audience, so you can tune that content. So you got a whole big fire hose of content, but you still have to know where to point it, and you still have to know how to adjust the nozzle, right? So that's the targeted and delivery mechanism, right? What's the platform that's most effective to deliver this in? Who is my audience? How do they like to receive their content? Because as much as we like to have like a user base of 1 million, they still want to be treated like individuals that get what they want, right? So we're in this sort of moment of dichotomy where we want big numbers, but we still have to cater to individual tastes. And this is a tool that can let you do that. And of course, trend analysis, right? What's happening? What are they interested in tomorrow? Not today, because I need to be ahead of them, not following and trying to play catch up all the time. And then good training data sets, obviously, right? So if you don't have that initial good training data set, none of the GAN stuff works, right? So again, these have already been created and pre-trained for you in many cases, But if you want to tweak them, that's one thing I will say, is a software that lets you feed it your writing style or your organization's general policies, rules, and sort of guidelines. That's really important. If it doesn't do that, you're going to be sort of at the mercy of whatever they decided the general most useful average thing was, right? You want to be able to customize yourself.
I think we're at the end here.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
Sergeant Riddle, can we just jump to the,
last slide.
yeah, here we go, resources. These are some of the free resources that I was just talking about. Copysmith, it's free trial, but $20 a month. DALL-E, Wombo, this person doesn't exist. You should go there and just try it out because none of the people on that site are real, not one. Or this X doesn't exist. Answer the Public is one of my personal favorites. So you can go there and you can type in something like chocolate chips, and everything that is happening in that moment, every search around chocolate chips will come up. Like, what are people? How are they in cookies? Are chocolate chips gluten-free? Like, you name it. So whatever topic, as content generators, you can use that to say, what does my audience want to hear? What should I write a post about? How should I, share this on social? And then just in terms of mis and disinformation, Dr. Claire Wardle has a 7-point scale that she follows, everything from benign, like accidentally it's wrong information, all the way to vicious and malicious, which is really important, especially if you are in the mis and disinformation space.
Yep.
Lumen 5 is a free video creator too, by the way. It's a good one.
So some examples of things you can maybe try around. Most of them are for free trial, but generally a $20 to $30 monthly subscription is the going rate for basic access to some of these things. But some are free. More will be free as the financial model changes.
Yes.
All right. And sorry, yeah, we probably don't have time for questions, but.
Oh, we got some time for questions. Excellent. Okay.
Right. You got a question, Tom?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Oh, ask us a question. Oh, we got.
Yeah, please add to the microphone.
With the idea that a lot of organic SEO, like non-paid SEO was generated through blog spots and people writing stuff, what's the future of algorithms if it can't detect what's fake, what's real, if there's so much going out there?
Well, right, and so that is the catch-up battle that is happening right now, is that detection capability. We before it was, actually, the software, the technology wasn't that great, and as a human, you could be like, look at that, there's the run-on sentence there, or they repeated the same word twice or whatever. There were cues that you could be like, that's probably fake content. That is all kind of gone now, right? So we really do need the development of these detection technologies that are going to start to be able, and we have them, they are possible, but here's what the requirements are. So that detection tool has got to have trained on the specific GAN generator that was used to make that fake content. Because then it gets into the artifacts. You can see those fingerprints that we can't see as humans, and still like, there's a punctuation artifact that's always in here, right? I know that that's GPT-3 as a generator and that it's actually fake. We're pretty good. In fact, at detecting images, we're really good, like 99% able to detect them with digital tools right now. With text, our best shot right now is about 85%, if we give them a lot of information about where the generation happened and with what tool. If it's in the wild, we're really not good yet. So we are behind. Images are good, text is behind, audio and video are babies crawling around. So we need to play catch up with the technology on detection side. And that's what some of the programs that we are working on right now are designed to do. How do we evaluate those detection technologies? What are they good at? What are they not good at? What do we need to work on more? Where are we okay? And it's the Wild West. So I wish I had don't worry, it's all good. It's not yet.
We have another question.
When you're building the detection technology, how do you guard against suppression of free speech on a text platform to make sure that something that might be valid content from someone that the system might pick up as dis or misinformation?
Right, so that's one of the challenges and it leads to a crisis of confidence. And in the end, right, that's what the audiences are feeling right now, is this crisis of I don't know what to believe or who I can believe. And so that's where you need to really have control over your content, over your platform, your ability to say with authority, right, you are legitimate. And so, because as soon as you get sort of questioned on that front, all of a sudden, people can come down on you and say, you're screening, you're politicizing, you're, putting your own personal sort of prism on the content. And for a long time, the social media platforms all were using that defense as like, well, we just make the platform, we don't police it, right? And then you know how hard it is to police the internet. Now those institutions have been forced to start taking ownership over policing it. And now they're in this sticky wicket of like, hey, you're censoring me, right? And how do you set the filters? The answer is, we don't know yet, right? And those are crown jewels that every company in the social media space has got and is working on and will not share because it's competitive advantage for them, right? So we're trying, getting that to open up a little bit will also help, but it's competitive opportunity right now for them. So what they do have, they will not tell you about. They'll just say, we're working on it. Again, I wish I had like something concrete there, but it's happening. It's just not open source at the moment. Yes, please.
So with a lot of these machine learning tools, a lot of the conversation seems to be kind of geared around misinformation, disinformation.
Yes.
But there's a black hat, white hat aspect to this as well. So as content curators on our end, can you talk about some of the ethical concerns, either for or against, that might be for using some of these tools to generate content?
Yeah, so again, I think the most important decision you have to make, and I love, Kwande, how you laid out the 4 pieces of a platform, and the first being strategic organizational policy and understanding where you are in that. That's a really important, and a lot of companies right now are trying to make the strategic decision of where do we want to be. Because there's 2 poles to that, right? We can be using AI like crazy and hiding it as best we can so that you think you're talking to a human or a human is writing this because we don't want to disengage you. We think it will disengage you to know that that's bot and that's not real person, right? The other end of that spectrum is we are fully transparent and we're going to tell you, look, this is informational purposes. It gives us scale. It gives us capability. We are absolutely using these AI tools and technologies, but we are using them in a truthful way, and we are making sure that we control the content that we generate with them, and there are human eyeballs still behind it. Because if you get caught in the middle, you're dead, right? If you are using AI, and all of a sudden you get exposed, and you were trying to hide that you were using AI bots to create your content, right, you're done. No audience is going to give you the time of day after that. Right? If you are transparent about it, you have the opportunity to control that narrative. And I think that's an important strategic decision. And if your organization isn't having that conversation or hasn't made some of those decisions, it's really important for everybody to be on the same page with that. Because one person ending up somewhere in that valley of death is going to affect your whole organization's credibility. So really, really important to decide that and be comfortable with that decision. And know that that's part of your model and part of your brand.
And I'll just add, when I received like my free trial of one of those writing apps, they positioned it to me as, well, you teach, public relations writing. This makes PR practitioners' jobs easier. Show this to your students because it can create headlines. It can create captions, right? So they're positioning it as, we're going to make your job easier as a communicator. And I don't know where that ethic, I've had this conversation with colleagues at other universities, and I've had this conversation in my classroom. What is the ethical line? Like, one of my colleagues said, well, a headline, that's okay. I don't know, is it? I don't know. So I think that's up to, ethics is always gray, right? What are the ethical implications of this? As Jason said earlier, and you can quickly Google search this, but there is an entire scientific journal article that went through the peer review process, and the scientist, all she, I think it was a female author, all she did was type in what she wanted researched, and it gave an article, and then it went through the process, and her point was to say, this is how scary it is. Like, I never conducted this, and it went through a peer review process and was published. Right, and so that's that. I don't know.
It is a scary time, and that black hat, white hat scenario. And again, all of these have very legitimate applications that are useful and increase, efficiency, production, reduce costs. But in a malicious way, so easy to sort of derail and use. It is an enabler for misinformation and disinformation. they can work at scale and at speed that we are trying to still catch up with. It's so, and I know you have an interesting example of that. So one of the key applications for misinformation, disinformation are fake profiles, right? So if you picture, I can have a picture of faces, picture of people doing stuff, the same person doing a bunch of different stuff. I can create a Facebook profile for that person. I've got lots of stock footage, like they're a real person living a life. I can start to create content for them. I can start to have, again, a bot with specific messaging designed into it so that I have regular posts and it's always themed with whatever my underlying campaign is behind it. And that person now exists. And now I multiply that by 1,000 because it's automated. And I can flood any scenario, any situation with profiles. And I don't have to be high quality because I can do scale, right? I can throw 1 million at them. I don't care if I get caught 99% of the time. That 1% is all I need, right,
and
to
so,
start a portal.
Yeah, and Kwande was talking a little bit about the algorithms for that. So what the algorithms are feeding off of negative content that's out there, right? Oftentimes we talk about the benefits of social media, creating the strategy, putting your information or your content out there, and it's positive and feel good. But the content that's rising to the top is the negative stuff. So when you do that, when you take this one person that you've created, this profile that you created, and then you scale it by 1,000, well, now you have 1,000 people spreading that information. And so it's oftentimes, if it's an adversary, it's against you. It's against what you're saying. You get the two political parties. You name anything. It doesn't matter. But the negative will rise because that's what we're feeding off of. So that whole idea of the happy face, sad face, angry, I'm proud of you, I love you, all of those. And the algorithm will see that and feed off of it. And I can't tell you how many times, again, a little bit of age here, but my mom would be like, did you see this? I'm like, Mom, this is not real. Here's why it's not real, right? But as an everyday person, that's real to her.
Yep.
So.
And real-time fact-checking it's not viable right now. It's basically saying, like, every time you see a piece of content, go check the internet and see if you can confirm it, right? The computational power required to do that every millisecond, not going to happen.
We also saw how the public rejected that. Facebook had that for like a hot second. I don't even know how long it was there. I was like, yay, no, what? Did I imagine that?
Right. And you start to get into like, oh, I stamped this as Facebook approved, right?
Yeah.
Now who's checking Facebook, right?
Right, exactly.
Who made them king?
Yes.
Or queen, right? So, and one other example, right, like how this is being used in real time, I don't know if many of you maybe saw this as well, right? So about a week and a half ago, there was a group of Ukrainian IT individuals who started creating fake profiles online of women, targeting Russian soldiers, creating relationships with those Russian soldiers, and getting them to send them pictures of themselves by pretending they were interested in a relationship. And the Russian soldiers sent pictures of themselves that they were able to use to geolocate on and feed that information to the Ukrainian military.
It's like it's warfare via Tinder, right? I mean, seriously.
Right? And again, fake profiles, pick whatever beautiful person demographic you want, and again, you're eliciting that information from others with that sort of fake personality or attribution. So, yeah. 2 minutes. One more question, or you thoughts?
No. We good, guys? Oh, that is terrifying. And with that being said, we'll go to break. Yeah, no, wow, that's really interesting. Wow.
Well, just really important, right? I mean, that unsettling feeling you get, to get comfortable with it, to understand it, and embrace it, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and when was yesterday. Yeah. So please don't turtle on this one or ostrich. Educate yourself. Wow. Get familiar with it. Mm-hmm. Use it. Understand the tool, whether you use it or not, because your audiences will be exposed to people using the tool, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, guys. Well, that kind of concludes this session. We're going to take a lunch break for you guys that are watching online. There'll be some nice video for you to watch if you want to stick around. But we'll be back with our next session at 1 o'clock. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wow, that is